Philip Pettit, an eminent political philosopher, has been instrumental in revitalizing the theory of republicanism in contemporary political thought. His seminal work, Republicanism, A Theory of Freedom and Government, 1997, presents a nuanced account of freedom and its central role in structuring political institutions. Pettit's republicanism is distinct from both classical liberalism and traditional democratic theory, emphasizing the avoidance of domination as the core component of freedom rather than merely the absence of interference. At the heart of Pettit's republicanism is the concept of freedom as non-domination. Unlike liberal conceptions of freedom, which often define liberty as non-interference, negative liberty, Pettit argues that true freedom requires individuals not to be subject to arbitrary control by others. Non-interference alone is insufficient because it may coexist with situations where an individual's actions could be constrained at the whim of another. For example, a person living under the constant threat of being fired without cause or being subjected to arbitrary governmental orders may experience interference sporadically, but their overall liberty is compromised due to the ever-present possibility of domination. Pettit's insight shifts the focus from mere absence of obstacles to the structural conditions that prevent domination, highlighting the relational dimension of freedom. Pettit draws inspiration from classical Republican thinkers, notably the Roman Republicans and early modern philosophers such as Machiavelli and Harrington. These traditions valued civic participation, mixed government, and the balance of power as means to secure liberty. Pettit adapts these historical insights to contemporary contexts, arguing that institutional design can mitigate domination and enhance freedom. He stresses that the protection of individual freedom is not only a moral imperative, but also a structural challenge that requires robust political arrangements. Central to Pettit's theory is the role of government in maintaining non-domination. He does not advocate for minimal government. Rather, he emphasizes the necessity of institutions capable of preventing arbitrary control, including laws, checks and balances, and accountable decision-making mechanisms. Republican government, according to Pettit, must empower citizens not merely as voters, but as participants with the capacity to contest and influence political authority. This participatory dimension ensures that power is diffuse and accountable, reducing the risk of domination by elites or bureaucrats. In this sense, republicanism is both a normative and a practical theory. It prescribes values and offers guidelines for institutional design. Pettit further develops a theory of civic virtue that complements his conception of freedom. While classical republicanism often emphasized moral and civic education as central to liberty, Pettit proposes a modernized version that is compatible with pluralistic societies. Civic virtue in Pettit's framework involves the recognition of the common interest and a willingness to participate in institutions that safeguard freedom. Unlike the more rigid demands of historical republicanism, his account is flexible, allowing for diverse societies to cultivate civic-mindedness without imposing a single conception of the good life. This balance between individual autonomy and collective responsibility is a hallmark of Pettit's approach. Another important aspect of Pettit's theory is his analysis of economic and social conditions that affect non-domination. He recognizes that freedom is not purely a legal or political concept. Social and economic inequalities can create forms of domination even in formally free societies. For instance, extreme economic dependence may subject individuals to the arbitrary will of employers or creditors, undermining their freedom. Pettit's framework thus extends to policy considerations, emphasizing the importance of welfare provisions, labor rights, and social safety nets in supporting Republican freedom. In this respect, republicanism bridges normative political theory and practical policy design. Pettit also engages critically with liberal and libertarian theories. He argues that classical liberalism, with its focus on non-interference, may overlook subtle and structural forms of domination. Libertarianism, in particular, can be insufficient because it often prioritizes property rights and contractual freedom while neglecting the relational dynamics of power. By contrast, republicanism addresses both the formal and informal dimensions of control, recognizing that freedom is compromised when individuals are subject to arbitrary influence, even if no direct interference occurs. This relational approach offers a richer understanding of liberty that is sensitive to social, economic, and institutional contexts. A key methodological innovation in Pettit's work is his use of game theoretic and rational choice models to explain domination and non-domination. He conceptualizes domination as the potential for one agent to unilaterally interfere with another's choices in a way that the latter cannot contest or prevent. This formalization clarifies why structural arrangements such as constitutional limits, judicial oversight, or collective bargaining are essential to prevent domination. Pettit's approach combines philosophical rigor with practical applicability, offering tools to analyze and evaluate real-world political institutions. Pettit also distinguishes between domination and mere power. While power refers to the capacity to influence outcomes, domination is a specific form of power exercised arbitrarily without accountability. This distinction is critical because it allows for legitimate forms of authority that structure society and coordinate collective action without infringing on freedom. For example, a government may have the authority to tax or regulate commerce, but as long as these actions are transparent, contestable, and bound by law, they do not constitute domination. Pettit's conceptual clarity here provides a foundation for normative debates about justice, governance, and institutional design. One of the most compelling features of Pettit's Republicanism is its practical relevance to contemporary democratic societies. Issues such as the concentration of corporate power, political lobbying, and systemic inequality are all forms of domination that threaten freedom. Pettit's framework provides a normative lens to assess these phenomena and to propose institutional reforms. By emphasizing both legal safeguards and civic engagement, Republicanism offers a holistic approach to ensuring that citizens are genuinely free and empowered participants in political life. Moreover, Pettit addresses potential critiques regarding the feasibility of non-domination. Critics might argue that domination is unavoidable in complex societies, making the Republican ideal unattainable. Pettit acknowledges these challenges, but contends that the aim of republicanism is not absolute elimination of domination, but the systematic reduction and control of arbitrary power. Institutions and social norms can be designed to make domination less likely, more visible, and more contestable. This pragmatic orientation distinguishes Pettit's republicanism from utopian or idealist political theories, grounding it in the realities of modern governance. In conclusion, Philip Pettit's Republicanism, a theory of freedom and government, represents a major contribution to contemporary political philosophy. By reframing freedom as non-domination, Pettit bridges historical Republican thought with modern institutional and social realities. His work provides a robust conceptual framework for understanding the interplay between liberty, power, and governance, highlighting the importance of legal, social, and civic mechanisms in safeguarding freedom. Republicanism in Pettit's hands is both a moral vision and a practical guide, emphasizing participation, accountability, and structural safeguards against arbitrary control. It challenges conventional liberal notions of freedom, offering a more relational and socially aware conception that resonates with contemporary democratic challenges. Pettit's insights continue to influence debates in political theory, constitutional design, and public policy, offering a compelling vision of a society in which freedom is actively protected through thoughtful and accountable governance.